General, so I want to go back to the discussion about content discrimination, and we're going to shut Joe up. Here, it seems to me like we are saying to ByteDance, we want to shut you up. And so let's say that I think that that is content discrimination based on speaker. Tell me if I think that, tell me if I have to conclude that it is also speaker-based discrimination and content-based discrimination for TikTok.
No, it is not. And the reason for that is because it would be an anomalous principle to say that an entity outside the United States that can't assert its own First Amendment rights can somehow manufacture that right through the expediency of forming a U.S. subsidiary, especially one that it wholly controls.
So you don't have to stand on that argument that you were having with Justice Alito and Justice Gorsuch to still have your point about content discrimination.
That's right. And I think if you're focusing in on the relevant U.S. entities here, TikTok U.S. and the users themselves, this act isn't regulating them in any way. It's not trying to dictate the algorithm that TikTok U.S. can use. And in fact, Congress, I think, was doing everything it could to preserve access to TikTok in the United States in recognition that Americans enjoy expressing themselves and building community on the site.
One last quick question. Sorry, just one last quick question. Justice Gorsuch had asked your friends on the other side whether the new administration on January 20th could extend the deadline. What's your position on that?
So I think it tees up a statutory interpretation question of whether there can be an extension after the time period for divestiture has lapsed. I would think the court might start with its decision in the Hawley Frontier case, which did recognize the ability to get an extension after a lapse like that.
So it's your position that they could?
We have not run it to ground, in part because it's simply not presented here, and I'm not prepared to take a position on that statutory interpretation question. I do want to emphasize, though, that my friends have pointed to January 19th, or 9 days from now, as a moment when TikTok might go dark. At the outset, of course, Congress was hoping to prompt a divestiture, but I think the more important thing to focus on now is that even if that were to happen, Congress specifically anticipated it and provided authority to lift these restrictions as soon as there's a qualified divestiture. And the reason for that is because foreign adversaries do not willingly give up their control over this mass communications channel in the United States. And I think Congress expected we might see something like a game of chicken, ByteDance saying, we can't do it, China will never let us do it. But when push comes to shove and these restrictions take effect, I think it will fundamentally change the landscape with respect to what ByteDance is willing to consider. And it might be just the jolt that Congress expected the company would need to actually move forward with the divestiture process.